Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2022. It is August the 8th. It is Monday night. I am Dave Bryan, and joining me, as usual, Alex Kozora, fresh off of a trip to Latrobe Memorial Stadium today, as the weather had the fields out there at St. Vincent College probably still way too damp to do anything on. So with that, and after a day off on Sunday, Alex Kozora, happy Monday night.
Happy Monday night, Dave. Talked to a friend of the show who was sitting next to me. His name's Zach, great family out from Washington. He said he listens to the show and primarily you on 1 1/4 speed. So if you want to be a faster version of Dave Bryan, Zach's listening to you sped up.
I probably haven't been that fast since I was 22. Whatever people have to do, I guess that would be fine. So, all right, Alex, once again, the team had off on Sunday. They're back at it on Monday. Before we get started here, how about shouting out to find people at Touring Plans, Lynn Testa, and the fine folks there?
Absolutely. Again, longtime sponsor of training camp, of our Steelers Depot training camp coverage. So we thank them. If you're planning a trip to Disney and want to know exactly what to do, if you've never been to Disney before, I've never actually been, I don't think. I don't know if you have, Dave. And so I can only imagine you have.
I grew up in Florida. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a fair point.
That's a prerequisite.
Well, I was born in Florida, lived there until I was 3.5. Never went there as a kid. And I was down south. I wasn't super close to Orlando. But anyway, if you've never been, I'm sure it's crazy trying to figure out what to do, where to see, how this whole thing works. You don't want to have to spend your whole time stressed trying to play your own travel agent, essentially. And so Touring Plans will help get you the best information, the best deals. So be sure to say that Len Testa and Steelers Depot sent you. Go to touringplans.com.
Absolutely. Okay, with that, a lot of housekeeping to get to today. Some good news mixed in with some new injuries there.
Yeah, the day started well from an injury standpoint. It almost felt a little day one of camp in the sense that I was spending half my time trying to see where guys were aligning because there was so much kind of new and guys getting back healthy and full. But the guys who did not practice today, who were previously injured, Najee Harris with the foot, Marcus Allen with the hamstring, those are the only two, I believe, in terms of guys who did not work at all. Two new ones from the last time we saw this team. Derek Watt, unknown. I think that's a pretty minor thing. And the big one, unfortunately, Ulysses Gilbert III has a right foot injury. He was in a boot today, and so that may keep him out for a little bit. And so that's the big news on the injury front, and probably the most serious one Pittsburgh's dealing with right now.
Yeah, you hear about a guy in a boot like that, you think ankle or foot or something along those lines, and you think probably a little bit of time to get back from that. So, and you were saying UG3 was having a pretty good camp up until that point, and obviously this is the same UG3 that's had a little bit of injury history in the past as well too. So we'll see, but it certainly doesn't, sound good initially here. And at this point, with a game coming up at the end of the week here, have to think he's at least going to miss that. And we'll see if they can get him back maybe by the second preseason game there. Had some good news with Tyson Alualu off the active PUP. So that was some refreshing news early in the morning. The team did have to waive rookie outside linebacker TD Moultrie as injured, and we will expect him to clear waivers and revert to the injured reserve list on a split salary and see if the team works out some sort of injury settlement with him in the next week or so, and kind of go from there. The team did make a roster move earlier in the day, and we kind of knew something was coming because they signed outside linebacker Rondell Carter, who is a James Madison product via Rutgers. He's bounced around with several teams, the Cowboys, the Colts, the Cardinals, and the Texans. I think he spent a couple of times with a couple of those teams there. Measures in at 6'2" and 5'8", 265 pounds. I think he's played in like 4 NFL games. No real stats really to talk of, but at James Madison, 152 total tackles, 48 resulting in lost yardage. He had 23 and a half sacks in 44 games at James Madison there. So he's the new depth at outside linebacker there. And did you cover some of the guys like Alex Highsmith and all?
No, I hadn't yet. A couple of the injuries that happened today, the two that I noted before Tomlin, Alex Highsmith, I believe Tomlin called that a rib. Kevin Dotson, right foot, right ankle. I also saw Jannard Avery with a wrap on. I think Tomlin called that a groin and mentioned Deontay Johnson, maybe a hip flexor there. All that stuff seems minor. I know the Dotson one sounded a little scary, but he finished practice standing up with the shoe on, wasn't on a cart or sitting down or anything like that. So I assume that's a pretty minor thing, hopefully at least. And a lot of guys coming back either in limited or full work today. Minkah Fitzpatrick returned to team. Pat Frymuth was limited, went through positional work, but wasn't pads. Chase Claypool was full. Cam Sutton was full. Levi Wallace was full. Larry Ogunjobi in full. First bit of teamwork today, and he made a heck of a presence there. We'll talk about that shortly. Alualu limited, but in pads, off a pup. And then Miles Killebrew in pads, did not work in team, but wasn't positional. So that pec injury, he's almost all the way back from.
All right, so typical camp stuff about this time, midway through, kind of guys getting dinged up here and there, day to day, guys coming back, guys going out for a couple of days. So we'll just play it by ear. I think the big thing right now, knock on wood, knock, is that really it doesn't seem to be anything overly serious at this point, and always good that, I think the most positive thing of the day, Tyson Alualu with that knee coming off the PUP list.
I was disappointed that Moultrie's being waived injured. It felt like he had some traits there that I wanted to see inside a stadium, but what are you going to do? I guess that happened Saturday. I'm not aware of when that injury otherwise would have taken place, and Carter will wear number 44. So when you watch that first preseason game, you see a 44 defensively, that'll be Rondell Carter.
All right, and I think the Derek Watt thing is a shoulder. I think there were some pictures of him getting a wrap on his shoulder and all like that. And I think Tomlin was asked about him, and he's just one of those guys that are kind of day to day there. So we'll definitely monitor it going forward on into the first preseason game on Saturday against the Seattle Seahawks. All right, Alex, where shall we start? You want to start with the quarterback position today again?
Sure. Nothing incredible to note there. I will say, and I need to pull up the stat to maybe make it more concrete and resonate more with people. The quarterbacks have done a really good job taking care of the football. They threw, 5 interceptions, I want to say, with the first week, the first 4 slate of practices, and they've only thrown publicly at least only 1 since, and none today. And so they've really cleaned that aspect up overall. And so that's, encouraging to see. I don't know if any one quarterback shined today. I think they all did, relatively fine. I did like to see Kenny Pickett being able to drive the ball in some of those sideline throws, the 10-yard out, the corner out, stuff like that. Had some, more downfield completions to Calvin Austin and Tyler Vaughns in that 10 to 15-yard range. I talk about one area where I want to see continued improvement from Pickett. You've seen the completion percentage go up. He's taking care of the football better. The snap to throw times have been quicker, and that's all really positive. You do want to see him maybe definitely push and drive that ball downfield. Not always 40, 50-yard, bombs, but 10 to 15 to 20 intermediate levels and kind of working that. And I saw a bit more of that today from Pickett working the sideline, again, in that 10 to 15-yard range. You
seeing a lot of moving boots and whatnot?
Oh, yeah, all the time. They do that. I mean, it's in my notes. I mean, I'll have to calculate it one day, but probably a solid quarter of the passes are, play pass and rollouts and boots and stuff like that.
Some exchange issues between Mason Rudolph and whoever the center he was working with late in practice?
That was Nate Gilliam. Yeah, there was one where it was a total dead ball. I'm not even sure exactly what happened. Gilliam was still holding the football, which is not a good sign after the snap there. And then the next one, I think, was a bit slow. They got the exchange off when the play ran, but I think it was a little bit, delayed getting out and away from center, I should say, with Mason Rudolph there. But that's stuff when you're working with Gilliam, who wasn't a center in college. I don't believe played guard, and he's played center a large chunk of the time this summer, but there's still some newness there.
What's our progression of the center position right now? It's still what? Mason Cole, J.C. Hassenauer, and then Gilliam?
Gilliam, yes. And then you've seen a bit of Chris Owens getting work in there as well, and maybe even some LeGlue, but essentially probably the way it's going to go Saturday is going to be Mason Cole and then J.C. Hassenauer and then Nate Gilliam.
Okay. All right. That will have us a little prepared there. Anything else about the quarterback position? What was there a throw of the day or anything?
Was there a throw of the day? I don't know if there was one that stuck out above all the others. Again, some of the throws that Pickett made, there was a left sideline deep out to Calvin Austin that I really liked. I think Rudolph had some good progression reads overall today. There was a throw and a kind of a corner out to Miles Boykin that really wasn't the best throw. It was a really nice catch by Boykin. But I would say some of the sideline work that Pickett had jumped out to me.
Okay. And how did 7 shots go?
Let's see. Let me scroll on down. There's a little bit of maybe controversy or vagueness here. I have the defense winning 5-2, but there's a couple of plays where there's some dispute over whether or not Connor Hayward got, stayed in bounds on one play, whether or not
they're trying to say he double caught that. I think is kind of the internet officiating or the Twitter officiating.
Okay. Fair enough. The Steelers team site said it was no catch, so I'll go with that. And then I think there was a question on the Steelers site about whether a tight end, they said Sternberger, I had Raider in my notes, made a catch later in 7 shots. I had that as an incompletion. He didn't secure the catch to the ground. To me, that was an incompletion. So I have the defense winning 5-2. And actually, the offense scored on their first 2 plays. It was Trubisky McFarland on a speed out against Casey, and then Deontay scoring from Trubisky right front pylon the next play, and then the defense won the next 5. So they really, I think Mike Tomlin was saying they're climbing back like Rockies. I guess Tomlin's a big Rocky Balboa fan.
Okay. All right. Running back position. No Najee Harris out there. Benny Snell football popped up in my timeline quite a bit today. I think along with maybe a side of Mateo Durant.
You could probably hear Mike Tomlin saying Benny Snell football from Vegas, I'm sure. And just kind of overall, it was a really physical day. They kind of had that Friday Night Lights tone just on a Monday afternoon. I mean, you had, 4 sessions of live tackling. It was 7 shots, the normal, first team session. After 7 shots, they had another one later in the day of 7 plays, just, ball 35 or whatever, just running full tackling then. And then their goal line drill to end the day. So, some teams will not tackle once in training camp. Pittsburgh tackled basically half the practice today. But to that point, you saw the physicality from the running backs. Benny Snell had one of the best runs at camp. Definitely the best run of the day with a 16-yard run. Stiff arm somebody, I don't know exactly who, I think was a DB or something like that, but showing a lot of power that that he has. And then Mateo Durant showing that power as well. He really had one play where he kind of was in the middle and ducked out the other side and took an ankle tackle by Carl Joseph to bring him down. So you're seeing some power there. Later on, it was him and Donovan Steiner one-on-one. And Steiner kind of made the tackle, but Durant stayed on his feet and stretched forward for an extra yard or 2. So a big guy like that with a little bit of power, which I did not see on his Duke tape at all. He was a guy that went down on first contact routinely. So to see some of that feistiness and energy and fight is certainly encouraging.
With Anthony McFarland Jr., most of the time when he's in there, is it mostly pony, or is there are there several instances in there where he's the lone back?
No, there's definitely instances where he's the traditional, back. I would say maybe it's about 50% of each, maybe 60% backfield, 40% pony. But I think he's been impressive. He's looked good in the catch and drills, the one-on-one moments, and I get those are, slanted and tailored towards the offense. But he made one nice combat catch today against Miles Jack that was a really, 50-50 type situation. So I think what he's done as a receiver is kind of impressive. And then certainly getting those additional pony reps. Again, will they do it in game, in the regular season? I have no idea. We'll get to that point. But I think I tweeted this out or wrote this on my notes that if you had to pick 3 running backs today, I think I would go kind of chalk and say the 3 running backs who will make this team is Najee Harris, Benny Snell, and Anthony McFarland.
Wow, and obviously Jaylen Warren's had some nice practices mixed in there. That was going to be my next question. It's definitely the top 2 of Harris and Benny Snell at this point, and then still a competition behind them, right?
Sure, it's still a competition. I don't want to pretend like anything's sewn up. Nothing will be sewn up properly until the very end. You got to be healthy to make it to that point. We know health can change so quickly, but putting that obvious point aside, this thing is not over. Warren's had his moments. McFarland's had his moments. Durant had some good moments today and has shown that burst of speed that he has to the edge. But I think just the body work overall, and maybe Warren's faded a little bit the last couple of days, is pushing me back towards McFarland. But again, this battle not over yet.
All right, tight end position. How much was Pat Freiermuth able to do today? And beyond that, Connor Hayward was playing some fullback, was he not?
He was. Freiermuth, just positional work. He did not work in team at all, to my knowledge, but very close to coming back there, so no concern. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot on the tight end group, I guess, which is pretty typical at this point, other than Connor Hayward getting 3-4 snaps as a fullback, a lead blocker, strong eye or eye form, stuff like that. So makes sense with Derek Watt being out. Again, Hayward's still working with the tight ends in positional work. He did not work with the running backs today, but motion there in kind of a way that Trey Edmonds would be used, or David Johnson, probably a better comparison to be used there. So I think it makes more sense to have him in that role, and maybe that's kind of their hand being forced with Derek Watt missing some time.
I saw some all 22 of the Raiders game already up on NFL Plus and all. I'm ready. We're only a little bit past halfway point. I'm ready for training camp. I'm ready for the preseason. I'm done talking to you.
Feeling love. I know. The second that first preseason game happens, no one cares about my camp reports anymore. People just say, "I've already watched these guys. Shut up, Alex." So,
yeah,
which is fine.
I've made up my mind already, but I'm tired of watching football on a Twitter timeline.
Right. Although at this point, you're basically getting a live stream of practice with the way these videos get tweeted out. So it's like you're there.
Yeah, to some degree, I get to see quite a few of these plays, much to the chagrin of one Burt Lawton, I'm sure. Okay, offensive line. Did I make it clear that I'm ready to watch some preseason football? I just want to get that out there. No, let's go wide receiver next. Chase Claypool, how much was he able to do on this Monday? And talk to me.
Yeah, he was full. He worked full. The 3 receiver sets, and there's mixing and matching, and I might pay a little bit better attention to it tomorrow in terms of who's lining up where. But 3 receivers off the top is Chase Claypool, George Pickens, and Deontay Johnson, the 3 names that you would expect there. Not a lot of plays from those guys today, which is fine. There's going to be ebb and flow to it. I would say George Pickens has been a bit quieter overall. And again, that's part of that ebb and flow, and I'm not trying to sound any alarm bells about George Pickens.
George Pickens is a bust, Alex said.
Yeah. Probably will get turned into that. I'm sure somebody will comment and say that about me. The one guy that I'll talk about that I haven't mentioned a lot of, and he's not been spectacular, but he's been just very steady, is Gunnar Olszewski. And he even got maybe some first-team slot work today, again, as part of that mixing and matching and rotation there. I think his route tree seems to be pretty limited to maybe curls and boots and over routes and stuff like that, but he's been effective overall. The numbers bear that out, a really high catch percentage. He's been solid. I mean, it's not been incredible, but he's been just day in, day out, the same dude every single day.
Let's talk about the bottom man. Let's talk about the new kid, Javon McKinley. Has he done anything to stick out? Tyler Vaughns, Tyler Snead, Steven Sims.
Yeah, not a lot on McKinley. I only have him down for 1 target since he's been signed. He's a big guy. It's still weird to see that 21 on a dude that's so big, but he might be the next guy to get cut, because when you have Claypool back and Deontay back and the group healthy overall, I'm not really sure what purpose Javon McKinley's serving anymore. So these other injuries that are cropping up at outside linebacker and offensive line and stuff like that, McKinley might be getting called in the coach's office and a hearing from the Turk here soon. Tyler Vaughns has impressed me with the short area quickness that he has, the body control, the tracking of the football. Tyler Snead's been quieter. I talked about it'd probably be a day in which Tyler Snead would gain a lot of buzz. I haven't really seen that. It's been, okay work in the slot overall. And Steven Sims primarily working outside as the exit. Have a jet run today in that goal line session. Had a jet run untouched into the end zone. But beyond that, Sims has been just okay.
Cody White?
Kind of quiet. He gets a lot of burn and a lot of time, but really doesn't make a ton of plays overall. He's versatile. He's got some size. They know him pretty well. But Cody White is just kind of faded from this. Boykin, I think, has maybe been a bit better than what I've kind of given him credit for. I think he had a nice catch today on that kind of corner route that Mason Rudolph kind of slightly underthrew a little bit to Boykin. So I think Boykin is still very much battling Anthony Miller for that 6 wide receiver spot.
All right, let's talk about the offensive line. How's that battle going? I guess you kind of a battle between maybe both of them, or we end up making it anyway. Trent Scott and Joe Haig.
Yeah, I still see Haig running ahead of Trent Scott. I think Haig's the better player. He's more versatile. He's more experienced. He's just the better player overall. His pass pro, while not that good, it's better than Trent Scott. I still see Scott as kind of like just a tick above a Chaz Green. So I really hope that that's the direction they go in the sense of Haig being that guy there. Don't have a ton of notes overall for the offensive line today.
How about your boy Chris Owens?
Yeah, I just haven't seen a lot. I mean, again, sometimes it's tough to tell. I will say Jordan Tucker looks a bit out of place. The new guy, Rondell Carter, beat him, I think, 3 times in a row in O-line, D-line today, which is not a great place. Tucker's on the ground a lot. He gets top-heavy. His technique overall. Got some versatility. He's played both tackle spots this summer, but not seeing a lot there with Jordan Tucker. Beyond that, probably not a lot of notice there other than to say that with Kevin Dotson out for that final 7v7 session, Kendrick Green got first and second team reps, so more opportunities there for Kendrick Green.
All right, 20 minutes into this. Let's flip over to the defensive side of football. Hello, Larry.
Hello, Larry O. Man, he was so good in that first run session, back-to-back tackles. I want to know who he beat on the second tackle that he had. It might have been, I think it was left guard. It was either Kevin Dotson or Kendrick Green just totally discarded him, threw that guy back, and then made the tackle at the line of scrimmage. So Ogunjobi working with the 2s there, and by the next session, he was working with the 1s because I think Larry Ogunjobi against the 2s is kind of an unfair fight there for the offensive line. And so Ogunjobi making his presence known right away as he works in the team.
Yeah, and he got, kind of a attaboy, I think, from Mike Tomlin after practice when it comes to that. And I think they have been smart with him so far in bringing him along the way that they have. And here's to him staying healthy because, as we've said several times, man, if they got the guy that they that was on that field, for the Bengals prior to his injury against the Raiders, then they got a dude there.
Based on one day, they got that guy. Now it's just one day, but it was a really good first day. And it's funny you mentioned Tomlin. Did you see the smirk on his face when he was being asked about Larry Ogunjobi? Just like, hopefully you find someone that looks at you the way that Mike Tomlin thinks about Larry Ogunjobi.
Boy, that'd be nice if he stays healthy and he's that guy for sure. They definitely could use that up front. DeMarvin Leal doing some nice things, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if there was one thing that stuck out to me today. He had some good battles in O-line, D-line with John LeGlue. I'll give you 2 other names that have stuck out to me. Montravius Adams is having the best camp of the guys that no one's talking about. He's having a really good camp. He beat Mason Cole on a quick swim move today in O-line, D-line. He's been disruptive, kind of the similar things that you saw last year whenever he got signed off the Saints practice squad. And then Khalil Davis, that guy's going to have a good summer. That guy's going to wreck some third-string offensive lines in fourth quarters of preseason action. It's a really good first step, really good hand use overall. He's not maybe as bottom-heavy as Carlos Davis is, but it kind of has that freaky athleticism for his frame and just really good hand use overall, a quick penetrator, and this guy's going to probably make a couple plays this summer.
Say somebody was to bet some shekels on preseason games.
Who would do that?
A degenerate of sorts. Okay. You look at the third string. Obviously, the third stringer is going to play quite a bit in his first preseason game. How do you feel about the defensive? I mean, they got a lot of experience, really, when you think about some of these third teamers that the Steelers have, right?
Yeah. So you're asking me just how you think kind of the third string defense plays inside a stadium?
Right.
I think they're going to do well. I think there's some questions in the secondary, but when you have a good pass rush and they're going to have guys like Tuska and Avery and Skipper and, again, Carlos and Khalil Davis and those kinds of guys getting action during that time, if you have a disruptive front seven in the second half of a preseason game against an offensive line that's new and young and gelling and all that kind of stuff, even if your own secondary isn't that good, you're going to make plays there because you're going to get pressure, you're going to get run stops, you're going to put teams in second and third and long. So if you were a betting man, and who on earth would do that for a preseason game, I think the Steelers defense will do well in the second half of the game.
I mean, you got a lot of guys with some experience, right? Costin.
Yeah. Right. Good point.
you look at some of these second and third teamers.
Skipper's got a good amount of experience.
Skipper's got some experience there. All right, I'll make sure to relay that information to my degenerate friend to probably take play the money line and take the Steelers and lay the points. He'll appreciate that. Okay, outside linebacker.
Yeah, I would say that Delonte Scott continues to impress me. A guy that's really just been steady Eddie every single day. Jannard Avery had one of the plays at 7 shots with a diving breakup. Unfortunate he did not finish practice, but I think that's pretty minor. He was watching O-line, D-line, so that tells me it's not that serious of an issue there. And then Derek Tuska getting more snaps with Alex Highsmith, missing the back half of practice. So he's kind of been the guy that's been benefiting from all that work. And you talk about what are the keys to being a guy that's, survives camp and does well and makes a good impression? Half of it's being available, and injuries are sometimes unavoidable, and you don't want to be too critical of a guy for that. But no Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt's gotten some days off, Jannard Avery's banged up. Derek Tuska's been out there every single day working, taking the snaps when Watt gets the day off, taking the snaps when Alex Highsmith is dinged up. That's a guy that's getting more opportunities and more reps, and that's a good thing for him.
$100 minus 3, money line minus 155 for $100. Okay, where were we? How
embarrassing! Catch you in that moment.
Excuse me. You can take the kid out of the trailer park, but you can't take the trailer park out of the kid. Alex, always remember that.
Will do.
Inside linebacker here, going to get a little interesting, is it not?
It's getting thin. All that good depth we talked about getting a little bit thinner right now. But how about Buddy Johnson making some noise? I barely talk about Buddy Johnson. Thought he had truly maybe the best practice I've seen of him all of last camp and all of this camp so far. And he was really good in one-on-ones. And again, those are tough, situations for linebackers, for defenders to be in. He had 2 breakups today, nearly a third on Mateo Durant, but Durant made the catch and then took good angles to the football in run session. So that's a guy that's going to get more opportunity here. Again, being healthy, being available, things we talked about with Derek Tuska, we can talk about and apply to Buddy Johnson. But with UG3 being out, Marcus Allen will not be back tomorrow. He'll be back at some point, but it will not be tomorrow. Will they have to sign somebody? We'll have to see on that. But Buddy Johnson and Mark Robinson continues to look nice in coverage.
A couple of them guys going to get quite a bit of burn on Saturday, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, for sure, because Jack's not going to play. Spillane's going to play some, I imagine, but he doesn't need a ton of time, I don't think. What do you do with Devin Bush? I imagine you're going to play him some. I don't know exactly what that number is, but second half, it's going to be Allen's not going to play. I doubt that. UG3 is not going to play. So then you're left with what? Buddy Johnson,
and Mark
Robinson, and that's it, I guess, right? So, I mean, I guess
Spillane. I say.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So those guys will get a ton of playing time.
Yeah, those guys are going to have their conditioning checked in that game. So, and look, that's good because we didn't get to learn a whole heck of a lot about Buddy Johnson last year, right? And it'd be nice to kind of see more of him and obviously the rookie and Mark Robinson. So I think we're going to see both those guys get a lot of burn in the second half of that game. Hopefully they stay healthy between now and Saturday.
And really, just real quick, I mean, Spillane and Bush may play a lot in the first half because you can't have Buddy Johnson and those guys play the whole game. And they haven't signed anybody, and they knew UG3 was hurt. They didn't sign anybody for today, so it's not like they're going to wait to maybe they could sign somebody, but you think they would have done that by now. So, yeah, I think Bush and Spillane may play at least the first quarter Saturday.
All right, tell me about the cornerbacks, and got Levi Wallace back there, right? What's the rotation and the slot and all looking like?
Right, that was good. I don't think I saw Wallace and Witherspoon and Sutton on the field together. That's part of some of the rotation they were doing earlier in camp. It was like Witherspoon. There was Wallace rotating in with primarily Akella Witherspoon. So kind of to be determined on some of those rotations. Carl Joseph seeing more time in the slot since he's back after missing the latter half of last week. One guy I do want to mention is Carlin's Platel. I talked about him earlier as a rookie corner slot guy. He was playing on the outside primarily today because the Lions getting a bit healthier at outside cornerback and stuff like that. And I want to check this for tomorrow, I saw Justin Lane in the earlier sessions, didn't see much of Justin Lane in the later sessions. There was a time where I saw Lane opposite of Lyndon Stevens, who's been working like third team outside corner, and I think Platel might have been ahead of Justin Lane. So interesting note there. Has Platel passed Lane? I don't know, but I'm going to check on that tomorrow.
What about Chris Steele?
Chris Steele was a really highly touted prospect coming out of high school. He went to Florida. He was a 5-star kid. I think he had 52 offers when he came out. It could have gone anywhere in the country. Goes to Florida, and this is backstory. I know that does not apply to training camp, but just the background on Chris Steele.
Give it to me.
Goes to Florida. There was an issue with a roommate that he had that was accused of, I think, sexual assault or something like that. He did not want to be that guy's roommate anymore. Ends up leaving Florida, goes to USC, has an okay career there. He was kind of with Isaac Taylor Stewart, was another highly touted kid out of high school. Just hasn't all come together for Steele. He's got some size, decent athleticism. He has some decent ball skills as well, but the guy is very grabby, very penalty prone. When he gets into trouble, it was kind of like when Artie Burns would get into trouble, he'd just start grabbing you because he just didn't want to lose you, and that would just lead to a lot of flags. I feel like Chris Steele is going to be a guy that will make some plays on the football, that will be able to track and high point and make plays on it, but will also have like an equal number of defensive holdings and DPIs and stuff like that.
Would you say Carlin's Platel is having a better camp at this point than Chris Steele?
It's not that Platel's made a lot of individual plays to maybe go, wow, there's been a little bit of that. I'm just kind of looking at the versatility and maybe a bit more technical player. I mean, they're different kind of guys, different, body styles a little bit, and Steele's in, outside corner. Platel was mostly, Platel played outside corner at Assumption, and then he was a nickel corner at South Carolina this past year. So short answer, I would probably say yes, but it's a little harder to compare them because they're slightly different styles of cornerback.
Tell me what I should expect as far as maybe the grouping goes in like the middle of the third quarter to the end of the game, as far as the cornerbacks, and that includes the slot.
Yeah, let's take the top three will be gone by that point. You won't have Witherspoon or Sutton or Levi Wallace from there. And again, I want to check this for tomorrow, but the way it's been running is, Justin Lane at left corner, James Pierre at right corner. Millette's got a lot of slot work, a lot of first-team slot work, but he'll probably be playing fairly deep into this game. Carl Joseph will see slot work as well. Platel can play inside or out. And so I guess kind of that next group up would be more Lane, Pierre, Millette. And then after that, potentially Platel in the slot, Lyndon Stevens, and Chris Steele. But I want to kind of see what tomorrow looks like with Lane versus Platel, because once this group's gotten healthier, it's kind of jumbled up the rotation a little bit.
All right, safety position. Talk to me about Donovan Steiner and Trey Norwood.
Yeah, neither have made a ton of noise. They've been working kind of a second, third, more 13 pairing, I suppose, overall. Haven't, noticed Steiner, again, I touted him as the sleeper. He's been okay, but nothing that, is really earning that sleeper camp darling type of status. My notes really today primarily are on Minkah Fitzpatrick, who it was weird. They didn't have him in the first live tackling session because I think he was still working his way back, and then he was in there for the goal line drill. I think Tomlin thought, well, it's a goal line drill. Minkah really won't be involved. In the first play, Benny Snell up the middle, and Minkah just comes flying in and pops him in the pile and pushes Benny Snell back, and Minkah was so hyped for making that play there. And then Carl Joseph being back and working slot and stuff like that. So Norwood and Steiner, it's been fine. Nothing too crazy. Norwood has, I think, been more aggressive. There was a toss today to McFarland, and there were a couple of guys there, but I think it was Norwood that came down really hard to fill that gap and pop McFarland pretty good. So Norwood was a guy that wasn't the best tackler coming out of Oklahoma, a little hesitant, but had some 1-2 and some fire, and I think he's kind of thrown his weight around, and Carl Joseph definitely throws his weight around. He will just hit you hard. He doesn't care what's going on. He will look to wreck somebody's day.
Was the defense, what unit was better top, throughout practice here? I mean, who won the day, offense or defense?
I would say defense when you win 7 shots, and I think they won the goal line drill or did, pretty competitive in the goal line drill overall. And that's kind of been the theme of the day. So, the offense had its moments. I thought in run session and some of the open air stuff with the Snell runs, Durant runs, even Master Teague having a nice run or two. I thought maybe the offensive line got some wins there, but I'd probably say overall the defense still won the day.
Any special team stuff to talk about?
We do have some punting. Let's see here. I don't have it tracked as much. It was a little bit slightly different setup today if I can find where it was at. Presley, actually, the first punt for both Harvin and Nizellik was their best punt. 5:06 hang time for Harvin at 60 yards and also 5:06 hang time for Nizellik at 65 yards.
Wow.
From there was a little inconsistent with the hang times. Both Harvin and Nizellik had a couple of punts under 4 seconds. So it was a little up and down today from that group, but searching for that consistency. And of course, what you do inside a stadium, because when you're punting in these moments, it's on air. No one's going to really come in and actually try to block. It would get cut if you try to do that. So how you look inside a stadium is key. Also, very important point. Backup long snapper, Derek Tuska, taking some snaps today. So whatever you can do to help your cause. He long snapped at high school back at Warner High School in South Dakota. So he's taking his back. He's kind of coming back to those high school days to try to increase his value to the team today.
Who will we see as up backs in this preseason game?
Assuming Marcus Allen does not play, which is a safe assumption, it will be Trey Norwood and Jalen Warren as the potential up backs there.
I love you for that.
You know, I had the answer for that. First thing I look for, first day of practice, who's the up back? Who's the wing?
How about some wings?
Yeah, it's written down. It's kind of sporadic. I mean, Benny Snell has been one of the wings. McFarland's gotten work as one of the wings. I've seen Mateo Durant as a wing, which is kind of an uneasy thought, but he showed some power and some fight today. So I'll have to kind of log that better. It's in my notes. I don't have a note of it today, but generally Snell, I don't know if it's McFarland or not. I know Snell's one of them. Steiner maybe as well, but up backs definitely Norwood and Jalen Warren.
All right, Alex Kozora, overreaction of the day.
I didn't think about this one too much. What is my overreaction? I guess, okay, here's the, I mean, it's an overreaction, but it's probably more appropriate. Larry Ogunjobi looks so good. He looks so healthy and like moving around and just crushing people. I mean, if that's the healthy Larry Ogunjobi, I mean, I'm kind of basing that off of a couple of run snaps, but he just was just dominant today. So that Steelers might have gotten a steal there.
All pro Ogunjobi.
All pro Ogunjobi.
No.
For sure.
All Progunjobi.
Oh,
there you go. All Progunjobi. Let's call
I
it.
like that.
Let's. How about that creativeness to kind of end a special edition of the podcast on there? All right. Rain in the forecast, unfortunately, on Tuesday, right?
Well, I was going to say your English teacher very proud and also very confused about your all Progunjobi comment, but that was very good.
My English teacher, bless her heart, she passed away several years ago. But my English teacher from high school, she Mrs. Harvelchuk, she is to know that I do what I do now. For a living, she's got to be rolling over in her grave in disbelief. Absolutely, because this might come as a surprise to you, but I was horrible in English. And
all Progunjobi's pretty quick on the draw there.
There you go. Okay, Alex, anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Nope, that's about it. But you mentioned looks like some thunderstorms rolling in tomorrow. So tomorrow's practice report may not exist. It may be less information there. It looks like it's going to storm all day long. So we'll see what happens. But got out there today at least.
All right. In the meantime, make sure you get by. Obviously we cover as much as we can cover in the shortest amount of time on these special edition podcasts. So a lot more detailed information on SteelersDepot.com. Just look at the top of the site there for the pin post that says Alex Kozora's training camp diary from Monday, and there's a ton of information in there. So. We'll see if Alex and I will be back on Tuesday night. We will if there's a practice to talk about. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do, donate SteelersDepot.com. Also an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, upper right navigational bar. Find that ad-free button. Alex, my degenerate friend, thanks you, and I know all of the Steeler fans listening to this do as well too. So as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.